Hi, welcome to another video on Fusion Manage, and in this particular case, Fusion Manage Extension. Recently we've encountered a common misconception that Fusion Manage Extension would allow a user to connect their Fusion 360 to a Fusion Manage tenant. And unfortunately this is not the case. Fusion Manage Extension is a tool in its own right and has its own environments. So I thought today we would go through some of the little differences between Fusion Manage and Fusion Manage Extension, and I would mainly give you a demo on how Fusion Manage Extension can be used to improve your data inside of Fusion 360. Let's dive into it.
The first thing I'm going to show you today is Fusion Manage, not Fusion Manage Extension, but full Fusion Manage inside of a tenant. Now you'll notice I've got this web page open, which is Man and Machine Demos Fusion Manage tenant, and on the tab next to it, I've got Man and Machine 41, which is my Fusion Manage Extension demo tenant that I use. Now, the first thing you're going to notice is if I go to the menu here and I go and look at the workspaces, there's a lot of different workspaces, everything from product portfolio management through to quality management, supply chain, there's implementation trackers. I can go and find a lot of various different things, including an administration section where I can go and manage my workspaces, customize it, customize the life cycles, customize how it's going to work and what it's going to do and how it's going to be automated. It is a big beast of a tool. And full Fusion Manage is quite a large implementation for this reason. There are a lot of moving parts. Now, conversely, let's go and have a look at Fusion Manage Extension. And this is the same page that we just saw, just with the Fusion Manage Extension tenant rather than the full Fusion Manage one. And if I go to the same place, I go and have a look at my workspaces, you'll notice I only have 2 workspaces available to me. It's 3 workspaces technically, but it's 2 menu. So you can see I've got designs and drawings, each in its own workspace, and then I've got change management, which contains change orders. And that's it. I don't have any configuration. Even if I went to advanced tools, I've only got my reporting or importing to go ahead and do. So I can't go and configure how this is going to work, how it's going to look, what information goes into it. It doesn't work that way. So Fusion Manage Extension is one of those tools that works out of the box as it does, and that either suits you or it doesn't. That's the first thing you need to understand about Fusion Manage Extension. So let's dive in a bit further and have a look inside of Fusion 360 at the Manage Extension and the tools that contained therein. So now that we're in Fusion 360, let's start using the Manage Extension as it's intended to be used. So we can tell that we've got the Manage Extension turned on by clicking on our Extensions button in the top right, which will allow us to see all of our extensions that are currently active, and Manage one is currently active on mine. Now this gives me access to this Manage tab at the top. Now in the traditional Autodesk fashion of working left to right, you'll see that on the far left hand side you've got assigning item numbers, which is probably the first thing that you're going to be doing. And this is something which can be a bit confusing, and I've tripped over enough times already, where PT is an item number, not a part number. Okay, but we'll get to that in a second. And we've then got our quick release and release with change order. Quick release just moving it to the next lifecycle state without a change order, and release with change order requiring a full change order in order to make that same migration. And next to that, we've then got access to our dashboard link. This will take me directly to our Fusion Manage Extension tenants dashboard. The details for this particular item, if it was created in there already, and any change orders that might exist for this item if we'd like. So first things first, let's go and click on this process dashboard, and what it's going to do is it's going to open up a tab in a web browser and take me to this exact area that you've seen already. It's taking me directly to my Fusion Manage Extension. Now, I do have some parts in here already, just a little bit of design work in here like so, and you can see that some of it's been in pre-production, some of it's working, some of it's unreleased, etc. So we're now going to go and upload our own item to here, and notice it's going to be assigned a PN number. That's what I was talking about earlier. An item number starts with PN in Fusion Manage Extension, and that is not configurable. So jumping back into Fusion 360, we're going to go ahead and assign an item number. By clicking on this button over here, it's going to pop up with an assign item number window, and all I need to do is then click submit to assign an item number to this particular one. Now, if you're dealing with an assembly which contains multiple components, you would select multiple components in your model browser and then go ahead and click Assign, and that would assign multiple items at the same time. So in this particular case, we just assigned one item number, and this is PN16. If I went and clicked on this link here, it would take me to the Fusion Manage page for this particular part. And you can see in here we've got a Details tab, a View tab, a Change Order tab, and a Change Log tab. Now, this item is currently pending, it is currently unreleased, and it is unreleased here as well, as you can see. And if we look at the details, you're going to see that we got designs with an item number, a part descriptor, and under properties, we would see some of the properties that come from Fusion 360 itself. Now, on the far right-hand side of this, we've got the changelog, which shows us exactly what has happened to this part from its initial conception through to where it is currently. Now, the change order tab shows us any change orders that might currently be active in this particular one. And the View tab, if this is loaded, it might still be processing as I've only just uploaded this, should allow me to go and view this design inside of the online viewer, in the traditional online Autodesk viewers format that you've seen in other products as well. Let's go and see if I'm reloading that's going to allow me to see it now. There, it looks like it's loading now. There we go. And here I have access to my part. I can go and view it in 3D, measure it, etc. Same usual tools. Okay, but now I've got a design that's unreleased. How do I now go about releasing this item? Well, if I jump back into Fusion 360 now, and I click Close here, I can go and click on one of my release options here. So let's use a quick release first. So you'll see by that diagram that is showing up the tooltip that the green line is what is exactly happening, where the white squares are in fact change orders. It doesn't require a change order in order to move it to the next step, it just requires a quick release. So if we go ahead and click on Quick Release, it's going to allow me to take this item from unreleased and submit it. It's going to assign it a revision number, and it is going to move the life cycle to pre-production. There we go. It is now revision 1 in pre-production, and I can go ahead and click Close. Notice that I now have a little flag next to this. It is now a revision milestone inside of Fusion 360. And if I went to look at this item online, I can essentially go back here and refresh, and I would now see an updated version of this item, and you can see it is in pre-production, and its effectivity is now here. It is now effective because it is in pre-production. The effectivity was on release, okay, which is now today's date. There we go. So if we wanted to edit this part in any way, we can go and click Edit. We can go and change the part descriptor. So demo bracket for video is maybe a better description of what this exact item is. And I can go ahead and click Save. And that would go ahead and update that. Going back to our Fusion 360, let's start talking about moving it out of pre-release and into a full released state, just with a change order instead of our, I think it's a production state actually, not a full released state. But we're going to use a change order for this one anyway. So this time I'm going to click on Release with Change Order, and it is going to bring up this page. And it's going to ask me to select items, and these components are going to be added to this change order. So if I had multiple components selected when I clicked on that button, I could go and add multiple components to this singular change order to release them all at once. So if I now go and click Create CO, which is going to create the change order, it's going to force me to fill out certain fields. Those are the ones that are marked in red. So the change order number is just going to have a little marker there because that gets generated automatically. We need to give this a title. So we're going to go and call this bracket initial release. And under approvers, you'll notice there's two people who are in this tenant. The other person is not really using it right now. So we're going to head and mark myself as the approver as well. Although you reasonably want to select someone other than yourself so that you've got at least 4 eyes looking at this design. Reason for change, this list, by the way, is not configurable. We're just going to go ahead and say initial release and fill out a brief description about what it is that we're doing. So initial design ready for final review and release to production. And its priority at this point in time is going to be medium. Now if I go and expand this window down here, you can see that I've got reviewers, and I can go and select myself as a reviewer. I can also go and select Alex as a reviewer if I wanted to as well, although I'll just remove him from this as well. If there's multiple reviewers as part of this, it will have reviewed by, so if I review it, it will put my name under reviewed by, and remaining reviewers, it would put Alex's name under remaining reviewers if he still hadn't reviewed it. In the interest of just keeping things moving, I'm going to not go and add multiple people, but you understand. And we also have some statistics at the bottom of this. So now that we've filled out all that information, if we go and click on Save, it's going to go ahead and create a change order. Now this change order shows me this page over here. Now I've got the details page where I can go and see exactly the information that I'd already filled out. I can have a look at what affected items are here, and I can go and add other affected items as well. So if I wanted to go and add another item, do we have anything else that's in pre-production? Yeah, let's use this floor spacer that's in pre-production. Go and add that one to this as well. Yeah, and it's now added that into this particular one too. And this one's moving to Rev 2, or from Rev 2. We can go and add some due dates to this particular one. So go and click on Add, and we want to go through the review state. We want to enter that state by tomorrow, and we're going to add another line with review state, leave state being on the 2nd. So this needs to be review started before the 31st, and review completed by the 2nd. I can go ahead and click Save, and there's 2 milestones and due dates for me to go ahead and do. Now if I go to the Approval Workflow tab, you can see the workflow that shows us this particular item. Now whether I opened this online or whether I opened this here, I would see the same workflow. Just to show you that, let's go ahead, go back to our page here, do a quick refresh, and we should now see under change orders, do we not have one yet? Why is it not showing a change order? Ooh, got a problem. So change management, change orders. Let's go and see if it's loaded in here. So there's our bracket initial release. And this is exactly what I was trying to get to. And you can see that all of our information has been added in here, and our approval workflow is identical to what it was. So whether you do it in the web browser or whether you do it inside of Fusion 360, it doesn't actually matter. It's the same interface. Okay. So notice that we've got 3, or a couple, actually, I think it's more. There's 4 different moves that is possible from this particular state. I can cancel this change, which would move this change order to cancelled. I can fast track it to review, which would move it to review with skipping the work phase. I can submit it to work, which would then allow someone to go and do some work. Or I can fast track the approval, in which case this thing gets closed immediately. And this just becomes a historical release going, okay, this is now done. Off we go. So because this is an initial release, I would probably have a review state where the designer sits down with another engineer, explains the concept, explains how this is going to be done, and they would say yes or no, or advise on what might need to change before this could be allowed. That's my personal preference. I think it should be fast-tracked to review. And I'm going to go ahead and click on Fast Track to Review. Notice that it pops up with a comment section over here, and I can do the exact same thing by clicking up here and going Fast Track to Review, and it opens up a comment section. Whether you use that one or this one, it doesn't matter. It all moves it in the same way. So let's go ahead and say Ready for Review, and go ahead and click Submit. Whoops. So it's given me an error here. All managed items must have a lifecycle option selected before you move this. So let's go ahead and look at the affected items. And quite silly, if I click Edit here, I don't have a lifecycle selected for either of these. So that was my mistake. I should have done that before trying to move it. So let's go ahead and say Go to Production and go to Production. The other option that I had there is Revise Pre-Production. So if I was going to revise the pre-production before I went into production, I would select that option. And now that we've done that, I should be able to save this and go ahead and move it in my workflow. So Fast Track to Review, go ahead and submit this, and it will now allow this move. So our change order is now in a review state. In a review state, I have the ability to go ahead and review this item. If I go to the Details tab, notice that I am a reviewer listed here, so I can go and click on that, and it would then mark me as having reviewed this item. If I tried to click on Approve and Close, it would review it on my side and just close it. I could also return it to Open, which would return it back to this state. So if I don't agree with this or further work is required, I can always return to Open and the work would go back there for the designer to go ahead and change something before we finally approve it. So I'm going to go ahead and mark this review. So say completed and click Submit. And what's going to happen is it's now marked me as reviewed. If I go to the Details tab here, you'll notice that reviewed by me, remaining reviewers, no one. So now that there are no remaining reviewers, I should be allowed to go and click Approve and Close, and this would allow me to change this change order to a closed state. So completed and ready for design in production. Go and click Approve, and this will move this change order to the approved closed section. Notice this is now no workflow actions available. It is locked, and while we have a change log and we can see the full history of this item, we can't edit it anymore. It now exists as a historical record for us to go and look back on. So if we go and jump into our Fusion Manage at this point in time, and let's do a quick refresh, you will notice it is now locked, approved, closed, and exactly the same that we saw earlier is what we saw here. And if I go to Details, I should be able to go and have a look at the affected items, apologies, and if I go and find our demo bracket, it is now locked, and it is in a production state. Okay, so while this is locked and in production, you would think that I would not be able to modify this particular part. So let's go ahead and close this demo bracket, and we'll go and open it up again. And I could then go and sketch on here, and I can go as I'd like, and it is not going at all. So it still has some discipline from you guys to ensure that it is working effectively, but when I save this item, it is still going to create a new version of it. So this is now the difference between Fusion Manage Extension and Fusion 360. So it can't lock this design for edit, but it has locked it in terms of its Fusion Manage. So this would still be correct if I went and refreshed this, and I clicked on View. You would notice that it has not updated this particular part. Okay. So while I could change it in Fusion 360, I can't change it here. And if I did the same thing with my drawing, it had an item number and it linked in here, or it had a drawing and it linked in here, because it's got a drawing number, not an item number, it would then be in here permanently and locked as well. That is something we could go if you wanted. So let's go to our demo bracket drawing. I'm going to go to the Manage tab. Once again, I've got Quick Release, or not Quick Release, I need to go and assign an item first. It's going to ask me to save number one. So if I go and save it, it's then going to assign a number to this drawing. And if I click Submit, this drawing would then come through to here. And I could go and click on that, and it would take me to my drawing view from here. So ideally, you'd probably upload this drawing at the same time as your design, and you'd move them together because it makes sense that you would do that. But we could go and create a change order now if we wanted to release this item too. inside of this Fusion Manage extension tenant, I would be able to go back to my Home tab, and I would see charts which reflect the data that I've actually got inside of this Fusion Manage extension tenant. So you can see I've got things like change orders by workflow state. So it's looking at all of my change orders and going, how many of them are approved and closed, how many of them are in review, how many of them are in work. I've got designs by life cycle states, 11 are currently unreleased. I've got 4 in production, and I've got 1 in pre-production. If I had drawings undergoing change, it would list data in there. And there's more data available here as well. So if I went to add charts here, you can see the charts that you can go and turn on. I've got 4 of them turned on. There's another 3 there, and there's got to be some others here as well because it says 9. And if we go to Advanced Tools, you can see that I can go ahead and pull reports. So all of this data that's been loaded into Fusion Manage Extension, while it might seem a bit trivial, why would I add all of this on to my Fusion process of designing rather than just filling out spreadsheets? This still allows me to go and track it in a historical way with a single source of truth for other people to go and access as well. It gives me some formal processes to my designs that might not have had that formal process beforehand. Remember that the target audience for Fusion Manage Extension, I think, is a smaller team who's maybe looking to try and start formalizing some of their processes in their engineering works, rather than just work with the Excel spreadsheets and the manual processes that they've been working with up until now.
Thank you for joining us in this Fusion Manage video. Hope to see you guys again soon, and if you're looking for any more content like this, you can find it at the socials over here. Have a good one. Cheers, guys.